What an incredible year this has been. A year ago, Nigel was enjoying what was a quite lovely retirement. The Tories are on their fourth Prime Minister in 6 years and still importing unfathomable numbers of people at alarming rates. Reform was polling at 8%, rising fast under Richard's outstanding leadership, and there are about 15,000 Reform members. A year on, Reform is the talk not just of the United Kingdom, but of the Western world. We've captured the hearts and the imaginations of millions to whom we offer hope. We've opened over 400 branches across the country. We've surged to 26% in the average of the polls. We have 190,000 members. And ladies and gentlemen, Nigel Farage is now the bookmakers' favourite to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It was just a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to be with Nigel in Washington, D.C., the weekend of the inauguration of a man named Donald Trump. What a marvel it is to see a political leader campaign on a transformative agenda, make a series of promises, win an election, and then deliver most of them within 24 hours of taking office. That signing ceremony was quite something. Now, despite the freezing cold, I can tell you could feel the effervescent energy in that city. This was beautifully encapsulated by an event that we attended, hosted by Pete Hegseth, who is the new US Defense Secretary. His vision, I can tell you, was such a tonic to the weak-kneed apologist gruel the British people have had to endure for decades. With extraordinary presence and charisma, he declared that the United States military, under direction from President Trump, would now revive the warrior spirit. The warrior spirit. He kept using that phrase. He said that war would always be the very last resort. But when US forces did have to fight, they would fight to win. The confidence, the steely determination was something to behold. Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that it's morning again in America. And thanks to your hard work, soon we will elect Nigel Farage as our Prime Minister, and it will be morning again in the United Kingdom. The United States is no longer sorry for their history, sorry for their strength. The United States is once again walking tall, and soon the United Kingdom will do the same. Because British people, we should be amongst the most prosperous people in the world. Instead, we languish 26th in terms of real GDP per person, even though we know we have so much going for us. 4 of the top 20 universities in the world are here. A large number of the world's finest engineers are here. If you're in any doubt about that, just go and look at the offices of DeepMind, or go and look around the Dyson Institute, or the factory making Rolls-Royce aerospace engines and nuclear modular reactors. We have a leading position in the world in financial services. We have the best possible time zone. So why is it that the British people get poorer every year in real terms? That's been the case for the last 2 decades. I'll tell you why. It's down to the appallingly incompetent and Britain-hating political leadership this country has endured for decades. There's the religious cult of net zero, an appalling theft of hard-working British people's jobs and money, all to fund the growth of China and the egos of champagne socialists. Speaking of which, I have a question for Mr. Boris Johnson and Mr. Ed Miliband. If renewables are so cheap, why have British people been forced to subsidise renewables to the tune of over £90 billion over the last decade? That's £300 per household per year extra the British people have had to pay in their energy bills, out of their post-tax income, while they struggle to make ends meet, all to enrich renewable corporate shareholders. And given all they did was offshore the emissions to China and India, they did absolutely nothing to make the world cleaner. Make no mistake, this is one of the greatest heists on the British people of all time, and reform will bring it to an end. Then there's the bureaucratic state, which has ballooned to an insane size. 500,000 people are now employed in the civil service, many of whom get to work from home on your dime. In the last 7 years, their burden on the taxpayer has grown by 50% to £15 billion. And now, in the age of AI, and with competent leadership, there's no reason that couldn't be cut in half and still deliver a vastly superior service to the British people. But ultimately, the problem with the bureaucratic state is much more pernicious than that. They act as a suffocating parasite, feasting on the dynamism and the hard work of brilliant British people. We have far too many regulators, and nowhere near enough buildings. Take the ridiculous announcements this week about a third runway at Heathrow. Even if it does go ahead, Rachel Reeves says it'll be completed in 10 years. "10 years to build a piece of tarmac." And the tragedy is that this is a country with an incredible pedigree in building unbelievable things. 175 years ago, Isambard Kingdom Brunel built the Royal Albert Bridge. It's over 2,000 feet long. It carries trains 100 feet above the water. And he built it in 5 years, in the 1850s. China builds runways in a year. China built their entire international airport in Beijing in 5 years. Britain has been captured by this parasitic bureaucratic class. And I'll tell you this, when Nigel is the Prime Minister, Britain will once again be the envy of the world for its beautiful architecture and ability to build at speed. We'll demolish the unelected, unaccountable quangos and unleash the tidal wave of potential in the British people. The reality is, the two old parties have spent decades creating all of these problems. You voted Labour, you voted Tory, it's made no difference. That's why we're all here, that's why reform is necessary. And it's why reform has broken through at such a breathless pace. Because in reform, British people see a real alternative. They see history being made in real time. That stranglehold that the two old parties have had on the politics of this country for a century is finally being broken. You, ladies and gentlemen, are responsible for that, and generations to come will owe you a debt of gratitude. Nigel gave his New Year's message from Blenheim Palace, famous, of course, for being the birthplace of Sir Winston Churchill. This is a man whose legacy has come under all-out assault in recent years. People calling themselves teachers, have sought to rewrite history and tarnish the legacy of one of the greatest Britons ever to have lived. But we've got some news for them. Their efforts are in vain, because we know his spirit lives on. It lives on in the people in this room, those watching at home, the millions of reform supporters across the country who know in their hearts that the time has come for them to stand up and be counted in their country's hour of need. Because we see a future in which the United Kingdom, instead of being ritually humiliated, celebrates triumph after triumph, one in which national pride radiates through the kingdom because our people achieve astonishing feats in architecture, engineering, sport, literature, medicine, all aspects of human achievement, one in which families are bonded together and communities thrive, one in which young people feel fortunate to be a part. That is what reform will deliver. That will be the legacy of a reform government of the United Kingdom. Now, time flies. We're well through the 6-month anniversary of when I become chairman of Reform UK. And we've achieved a lot together. Our membership has grown by 180%, from 68,000 to 190,000 as of yesterday. We've gone from no branches in the UK to over 400 branches across the country. We've gone from 14% of the vote share in the election in July last year to 26% in the average of the polls. But let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, in case anyone thinks that Reform are in the mood to slow down, on the contrary, we are just getting started. Now, we all know in life that momentum and trajectory are far more important than absolute position. I can tell you it's true in business, and it's certainly true in politics. Thanks to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, Reform has all of the momentum in British politics. And so terrified of Reform's rise are the two old parties that they're now conspiring to cancel the English local elections in May. In case any of you weren't paying attention, he knows. Labour have written to the counties and the unitary authorities that are supposed to hold elections, and they've asked them, would you like to delay them? Now, the vast majority of these are Tory-controlled. So what do you think those spineless, cowardly Tories did when presented with the opportunity to delay contact with their electorate? They said, yes, please. The Tory turkeys were offered the chance to cancel Christmas, and they eagerly snatched at the opportunity. Now Labour are deciding which ones to cancel. Well, regardless of how many millions of English people are ultimately robbed of their vote, we have a message for the two old parties. You may delay contact with your electorate. You can run, but ultimately you cannot hide. When those elections are held, you will feel the force of the turquoise tidal wave twice as hard. And is it a surprise that the areas which have requested the cancellations happen to be, by pure coincidence, no doubt, the ones in which Reform support is surging the most? Does that surprise you, ladies and gentlemen? Well, you can harness that anger. Firstly, by signing our petition at letthepeoplevote.com. Send it to your friends. 180,000 people have signed it in the first 2 days. Make sure everyone knows just how scared the political establishment are. But make no mistake, we still have a huge amount of work to do. And this is why we must harness this anger in a productive way. That's why we need your help. We need you to step up and stand as reform candidates. You can go to our website and apply, and in fact, when you leave today, there'll be tables outside, so as you leave, you can speak to members of our team, speak to reform councillors, learn what the role entails. We also need you to volunteer and to knock on doors and to campaign for reform. Will you do that for us? Well, then I'll leave you with this. The latest polls show that if an election were held tomorrow, Reform would win 180 seats, far more than the failing Tory party. Just think about that. We've gone from winning 5 seats 6 months ago to polling at over 180 seats, and we've done that in half a year. Just think about the impact of our 5 MPs, our 5 brilliant MPs who do a sterling job of holding this dystopian Starmer government to account. Now imagine that multiplied by 36. Imagine 180 of them. Imagine where we can be in a year and by the time of the next general election. Ladies and gentlemen, if we work hard, the sky's the limit as to what we can achieve together. We will elect Nigel Farage as our Prime Minister. We'll turn this country around and restore the United Kingdom to the poised, prosperous and powerful country we know it can be. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.